Oh boy, this is the one I've been dying to look at. So, I definitely like the Ranger class most of all so far from everything I have played. And we got Riptide, new hero to go through, which I assume plays off of traps. I'm not reading it. Hi, I'm Clue, and we're going through all the cards coming in Outsiders. Today, we're looking at the Ranger hero class set. Okay, so Riptide. Ooh, when you play a card from your hand, you may put a card from your hand face down into your arsenal. Whenever a trap you control triggers, sorry, let me try that again. Riptide, Lurker of the Deep. Whenever you play a card from your hand, you may put a card from your hand face down into your arsenal. Whenever a trap you control triggers, deal 1 damage to the attacking hero. So, essentially, you can just play a defensive ranger class, which is very interesting because it could almost be its own thing, but they had already released a few different traps for Rosalia, so I guess they've just stuck it together. Plus, you still have the bow, and I guess you can use any bow still. Yeah, interesting, but you do want to keep traps in your arsenal. You may put if this had the ability to swap out arsenal cards, it could probably be a bit better. It would definitely allow you to combo arrows into traps. Obviously, if you play the arrow from your arsenal, you can then put or refresh it with a trap and make sure to end your turn with said trap. So it's still very decent. Do I like it more than Azaleas? Azaleas is just loading up. This requires you to play, but there are a lot of cards you can play to start off your turn. In fact, generally the decks I have played for Ranger are combo heavy, so you play X card to start your turn, and then you fire away. So having this ability is kind of a bit better, because it guarantees that I can put an arrow card into my arsenal, and if I'm not playing aim, it doesn't really matter if they're face up. Okay, weapon-wise, we've only got 1 bow, but we do have 4 quivers to go through, so this is the new offhand. Pretty interesting. In addition to a bow, yeah, so they've gone around the 2-hand thing. Definitely completely revolutionizes the Ranger class, because it's a whole new item that they can now play with. And I assume every set will start getting some better offhand stuff. So, what does this mean? Well, they could probably do something with the Wizard class as well. Give them some sort of offhand to their stave, maybe a book or a tome. I know there is that 1 orb card, but I would like to see something for the offhand as well. What other classes do we have that use sort of specific weapons? None that I can really think of, right? It's just bows and the staves. They're the sort of specialized weapons. Everything else is general weapons and have 1-hand and 2-handed varieties. Yeah, nothing else comes to mind. Okay, Barbed Castaway. Once per turn. Pay 1. It is instant. You may put an arrow card from your hand face up into your arsenal, and then once per turn instant, you may turn a face down card in your arsenal face up if you put an aim counter on it. From everything I've looked at, aim is not worthwhile just yet. Hopefully there's some more stuff in here that probably has aim, so fingers crossed, but I would say this does not replace any of the other bows, and is just obviously a common for a reason. Trench of Sunken Treasure. Once per turn, instant, put a face down card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck and gain 1. I like this already. Yeah, so I generally use the Vest of such and such that allows you to gain 3, but if you have to destroy it, I think this is far better. You can tie in Riptide, you can tie in Azalea's ability, end your turn with 1 card, use this to gain 1, and then use Azalea's to put a card back into your arsenal. No, sorry, Azalea's is that I'm thinking of the bow I normally use, but I think it combos with Riptide pretty well. Very decent. I don't know if it would replace Verendel's Tunic. Right, it's Tunic, yeah? But still a very decent choice. Okay, the Quivers. Instant. Pay 3, destroy the quiver, shuffle up to 3 arrow cards with different names from your graveyard into your deck. So, more card recycling. Again, it will eventually be needed. I think it's a bit early to really be diving into card recycling for Flesh and Blood. I think give it another year or 2 for people to really get to the point where every game is completely exhausting each other's decks. And then it would be a necessity. I think, yeah, I think it's a bit too early. Quiver of Rustling Leaves. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an arrow, put it face up into your arsenal and destroy Quiver. I don't like the cost for these. Well, never mind, Azaleas and Riptides are not. But this is legendary and this is majestic. But from a glance, this one is value, this one not so much. Paying 3 just seems like overkill, to be honest. Crow's Nest, Zalias. So whenever an arrow is put face up into your arsenal from your deck, you may pay 1. If you do, put an aim counter on it. It's built into one of the bows. So yeah, I don't value this. In fact, it's built into this bow as well. For the same cost, right? Yeah. Yeah. If this didn't have a cost, maybe. But with a cost, I don't like it. Riptides. Instant. Destroy it. Put a card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck. So it allows you to then take advantage of Riptide's ability and slot in a new card. I guess for the utility sake and the fact that it plays off his ability, it's decent. But overall, I don't think any of these are really game-breaking. Interesting. Maybe the 3 cards. Well, they have to be arrows, right? Yeah, different names. Yeah, no. Underwhelmed by the quivers, I'd have to say then. Which is good. I mean, you're adding a whole new item slot to a class. You don't want it to be overpowered. Wayfinder's Crest. When you defend with the crest, look at the top card of target hero's deck. Well, majority of the time, you're going to look at your own. This would be great if it was generic. You could definitely slot into the assassin as a cheaper version of the mask. Still learning cards. Well, it's not really a cheaper version, but it has a similar utility because you can sort of guarantee. No, because it's defending. I'm getting ahead of myself. Never mind. Yeah, you just use it on your turn. But then it's destroyed, right? Yeah. Amplifying Arrow. When Amplifying Arrow is face up in any zone, if it would gain damage, just say it gains that much plus 1. You can definitely get it up there. I think it would take a lot of investment. There are a few cards. I hope it stacks, meaning so if you have, say, 3 cards that buff your arrow, it gains plus 3 on top of those 3. Pretty decent. I'd probably slot it in, especially because it's a yellow card, which is where I like Ranger at, and blue's a bit too weak, and then red is you can't really get much done. So I feel like Ranger are more of a yellow pitch, just for the amount of cards you want to play each turn. Barbed Undertow. If Barbed Undertow has an aim counter on it, it gains when this hits a hero, choose red, yellow, or blue until the start of the next turn. They can't pitch cards of the chosen color. Great way to shut down, but in saying that, the Ranger class already has a lot of ways to shut down an opponent's turn, so nah. Too easy to sort of mislead, having to pick a color. I mean, for the majority of the case, you'd probably pick yellow or blue, unless you're against a specific deck that only runs red. Probably, the majority of people will probably pick yellow, since it's probably the most likely to shut down a player's turn. Buzzsaw Trap, legendary Riptide specialization. When this defends an attack with damage greater than its base, that attack can't gain damage, so it sort of diminishes any bonuses that that card has. Definitely strong counter. Attack, defense, and attack. No, so defends a card would be better, because I assume weapons don't count, so it doesn't negate Dorinthia, for instance. Collapsing Trap, another specialization. When this defends an attack with Go Again, the attacking hero discards their hand, then draws that many cards. -1. A great way to mess up their turn. Spike Pits, another legendary. When this defends and the attacking hero has played or activated a reaction, this chain link, put the top card of their deck into the graveyard. They lose X life, where X is the number of cards in the graveyard with that name. So what? It's at max 3, right? It's 2 copies for. I still can't remember the format. I know it's constructed. Blitz. There we go, Blitz. That's right. It's 2 copies for Blitz, right? And then 3 for Constructed. So it's still decent damage. At worst, it's 1. At best, it's higher. Again, the Riptide class. Riptide is just going to be about playing defensively, so any trap's a good trap. Melting Points. Your next arrow attack this turn gains +4. For 1, if it has an aim counter, it gains when this hits a hero, destroy a one-handed weapon they control with 1 base damage. I'm thinking that's the majority of them, right? Except for the axes. I believe the axes that. I mean, there's not many axes, so if I say axes, I'm sure the majority of you know about the hero Bolton. There we go, we got it in the end. Boltons are 2, are they? I feel like they're actually 1. I feel like all one-handed weapons are 1. Definitely a good card. Boulder Trap. When this defends attack with damage greater than its base, put a -1 counter on equipment. Yeah, it's alright. Again, you're more playing it for the value. If you get its effect to trigger, you're more playing it for defensive reasons. If you get its effect to trigger, It's pretty decent. When this defense attacking hero who has played or activated a reaction this chain link, put the top 2 cards of their deck into their graveyard. Now that's decent. Anything to make them discard or mill is great in Flesh and Blood. Tar Pit Trap. When this defends an attack with Go Again, next time an attack action card hits this turn, effects don't trigger. Another great shutdown card. Fletch a Red Tail. Your next arrow attack action gains +4. If it has an aim counter, red cards have -1 while defending, yellow and blue. So that's the switch up between the types. But they are less. Yeah. +2, +3, +4. Kind of would have been interesting if these were sort of inverted. So yellow still did yellow, but red did blue, and blue did red. Since obviously red cards are higher damage, and so forth, and then blue is... You sort of get the gist of what I'm saying, because in terms of... Well, I think defense values are always the same, aren't they? It's only attack values. Yeah. Laced with Blood Rot. The next arrow creates a Blood Rot Pox token when it hits. Self-explanatory, I mean, you can read while I'm doing it. So we're getting a lot of arrow buffs again, aren't we? Yeah. So again, stuff like this. If this combos with Amplifying Arrow, in the fact that, say I were to play 2 of these, and then use Amplifying Arrow, if it gained +2, it should, right? Because if it would gain, instead it gains that much +1, so from each of them it gains 4. That's really good. And then, oh, we've got the same gimmick. Interesting that they didn't add it to the ninja class, just some way to poison their weapons. We've got Frailty and Inertia, so again, it just creates those tokens, but also buffs. Falcon Wing. If Falcon Wing has an aim counter, it gains +1. Pretty generic. I feel like there's a few arrows that do this a bit better without needing an aim counter. Infecting Shot. If Infecting Shot has an aim counter, creates a Bloodpox token. Pretty high damage. 5 for 1 on the red variety. Murkmire Grapnel. Grapple? That's just weird spelling. If it has an aim counter, it has +1 damage. Damage that would be dealt by Murkmire Grapple can't be prevented. So again, we're seeing this prevented clause. I assume it can still be blocked. It just means cards that actively prevent damage can't function. If it's if blocking doesn't work anymore, then these cards are really broken, and you'd probably see everyone run max copies of each color just because it's guaranteed damage, which is really great in Flesh and Blood. Station Shot. If it has aim counter +1, I wish there was some sort of better benefit to the aim counter. It's like a bonus effect, if you will, rather than just +1 damage. When this hits a hero, create an inertia token under their control. Skybound Shots has an aim counter +1. When Spire Sniping is put or turned face up in your arsenal, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, then put them back in any order. Great for cycling out cards with Azaleas. Widowmaker. Defense reactions can't be played to Widowmaker's Chainlink. If Widowmaker is defended by fewer than 2 cards, it has +3. So if you could find a way to give it Dominate, I feel like there is a way. I feel like I've seen a card for Rangers to give an arrow Dominate. But if it had Dominate, great. 7 damage, perfect. Withering Shots, Frailty token, so it's just like the Blood Rot and the Inertia one. All in all, nothing I see that is really game-breaking or does anything really different to the range class. I would have liked to see more traps. I mean, I feel like there's 2 currently, plus then 1, 2, 3, 1 down here. No, so 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, there's only 6 traps. Yeah. Which means 6, 12, call it 18 maybe. You couldn't beat an opponent, especially in constructed, just through trapping. Which I guess is what they want. Because if you could just stall the whole game, it'd be too strong. Because my idea behind Riptide would be to just put a card in your arsenal, defend. Run any cards that regen HP or draw, a lot of generic cards. We'll give it a go. I'll probably go back to playing for a little bit once Outsiders subs come out, just to try out some of these new cards. All in all, I feel like if they just focused on Riptide, it would be a little better, because a lot of these arrows, again, I will say, kind of feel obsolete. There's nothing that they do that is significantly better than the current arrow selection. I mean, some of them you'd obviously swap out, probably the token creators, and The amplifying shot was definitely a good one. Probably Spire sniping as well. But a lot of them, Widowmaker, yeah, definitely. But a lot of them just seem like they do something else that may or may not be worthwhile to running. Especially anything that costs. Yeah. My mentality for Ranger again is run yellow cards, arrows cost 0, and then just have a lot of buff cards, because since the buff cards aren't reactions, it sort of sets up a lot easier. Anyway, that's the Ranger class, which leaves us with generics, right? No, interesting. We have Assassin / Ninja. I was not actually expecting that. Okay, that's going to give me a new outlook. We'll dive into them next.